negotiations, it is also very important to understand what is your organization policy, what are the laws that you're using, what is the stand of your organization with the other team that you're going to negotiate with. You must understand the position of your country. For example, if you're doing bilateral or multilateral negotiations, when you're doing even trade negotiations, right? It's important to understand what is the position of my country, what is the position of my department, and why am I doing this negotiation. Another issue that I wanted to maybe stress on, apart from what you have been able to read or put across, is the concept of the phases of negotiation, because negotiation takes place in about 4 phases. There's the preparation for negotiation, that is before we go for negotiation. Then there is preparation takes place at the pre-negotiation stage. Then there is the actual negotiation or on the negotiation table. Then there is when we complete that negotiation, there is the documenting the negotiation, and there is also the implementing what we have discussed. At any of these stages, it's very important to be aware what is it that is at hand. For example, when we talk about preparation for negotiation, any of those negotiations that we are going for, I want to open this up and now hear your voices. I'm going to get about 3 or 4 people to tell us, when we are preparing for any negotiation, what kind of preparation should we do? What must we prepare? So the floor is open for the first 4 hands to tell us, what should we prepare for? Whether is it a CBA, is it a contract? What preparations should we make? The floor is open for your contribution. I'm taking about 4 to 5 examples. What should we prepare for? Can I see your hand going up? Did you get the question?
No.
Did we get the question?
No.
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 Yes? Did anybody get the question I'm asking?
No, we didn't get the question.
Okay, I just said, in any negotiation, we will go through about 4 phases or stages in negotiation. The first stage is preparation. And preparation takes place before we actually leave home to go to the negotiation. Wherever the negotiation is going to be, there will be preparation. So this is a pre-negotiation stage. Stage number 2 is the negotiation phase, or on the negotiation table. So we have left home, we have prepared, and we have now gone to the negotiation table. We have gone to the place where we're negotiating. Then we are doing the actual negotiation. After that, there is the documenting the negotiation, or legalizing for that matter. We either legalize or we document that negotiation. That is phase number 3. And phase number 4 is implementing. Are the 4 phases clear?
Yes.
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 Okay, Faith, can you tell us the 4 phases of negotiation, Faith?
We'll start with the preparation.
Yes.
And then there is the negotiation.
Yes.
Then there is documentation, and then you finalize the process.
Correct. Thank you very much. Can I see you clapping for Faith? In online class, you can try to show an emoji for clapping? Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. Good. Now, the question I had initially asked, in the preparation stage, what should we do? What must we prepare? So can I see a show of hands, just 3 or 4 hands, telling me what we must prepare and why? If I don't see a hand, I'm going to select. Okay, fine. I am seeing a hand. Barasa, please go ahead. Kindly tell us.
Thank you so much. I think, I believe that you need to have a strategy before you enter into any negotiation. You must design a strategy, and the designing a strategy, of course, entails understanding what you're up to and the expected outcomes. So the
Thank you.
strategy is very, very important.
Thank you very much. Barasa says strategy is very important. Martin Matsonga.
Thank you very much. Number two, things that we have to consider is the agenda or the issue to be negotiated.
Yes,
Thank
very
you.
important. Thank you, Martin. Christine, is it Christine? Yes, Christine Owano. Go ahead. Christine, the floor is yours. Okay. Let's hear from Felimar. Felimar, please.
Yes, so you also have to prepare on the kind of approach that you are going to use, whether competitive or collaborative.
Thank you, thank you. And then let's hear Otumba. And we are breaking the rules, eh? We had said when you are coming on, you will put on your camera. So let's apply that on Mr. Otumba Odhiambo. Where are you? Okay, Otumba is unable to speak to us. Okay, Ebaristo, your hand is up again. Go ahead. Evaristo, you are muted. Kindly unmute your microphone.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was saying that when going for negotiation, I'll also ask myself, what am I going to compromise in case that comes up? I'll also prepare for my objectives, because probably as an organization, I'll be going to that table clear with my clear objectives so that I do the negotiation within those limits.
Thank you very much. And finally, to close up that session is Honorable Sylvia. Please go ahead. Share with us your thoughts.
Actually, Mr. Evaristo has highlighted my points. Apart from, I will also consider the relationship. How important is the relationship with the person we are going to negotiate with?
Yes, thank you very much. That concept of relationship is also very important. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your contribution to that session. So yes, preparation. Negotiations fail or succeed because of preparation. So you must prepare the people who are going to speak, the agenda, the venue. Is it a neutral venue, or is it a venue that is the venue of the client, or the other client's venue? So we must agree on what venue are you going to use. And as you talk about venue, you're talking about transport, you're talking about logistics to enable the negotiations. And on the negotiation table, once we are there, we say, do not give anything up for free. You must give something for something. Even if it is something you don't need, you use it for purposes of bargaining your position. So on the negotiation table, you must also learn, how do we play our cards? Is it time to hold? Is it time to give? A famous song by Kenny Rogers, I normally use that in my live classes, to just listen to what Kenny Rogers says. You must know, when is it time to play my cards? When is it time to hold my cards? And then after the negotiation, there is the concept of legalizing. Some negotiations we do so well, but we celebrate so soon before the negotiation has been documented, has been taken to maybe the required courts or requisite courts for registration, stakeholders, participation has been done, and the negotiation can be implemented. Sometimes negotiations fail because we do not go through the processes. So the legalizing is very, very important for the success of the negotiation. And finally, there is also the concept of implementing the negotiation. We must ensure that the contract that we have put in place, if it was a contract, that contract is implemented to the fullest. So I want to seal that session on negotiation unless somebody has a question that they want to ask. Do we have a member who has a question that they may want to ask, please? Okay, can I get a question? Okay, no comment? Is there, Barasa, you have a question or a comment? All right. Yes.
I do have a question, just a clarification. I didn't get where the subject of the negotiation and the relationship is, both of them are important. You classified under which negotiation type? Where both are important.
Thank you for that question. That is collaborative. Collaborative is a win-win. In collaborative, they must work together to arrive at the solution because the relationship is very important and the issue of negotiation is also very important. So in that case, they must work together. They must find a way of working together because it's kind of symbiotic. None can do without the other. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay.
Thank you so much. Christine and Barasa, if you don't have questions, you can kindly put.
I was also looking for some clarification based on what you've just presented, and I'm comparing with what the material that you've presented compared to what we got in the notes.
Yes.
In the notes, you find the types of negotiations will entail things like personal negotiations, stakeholder negotiations, compromising, problem solving, and what have you. But in your presentation, you talked of there are two main types of negotiations, that's competitive and collaborative.
Yes.
So where do we draw the line between the two? Do we go by what you presented, or what is in the notes is the unpacked version of what you presented?
I believe what the notes may have unpacked what we are talking about as far as the negotiations are concerned. Whatever negotiation that you'll be doing, you'll be applying whether is it competitive or is it collaborative? Whatever kind of negotiation that you're going to do, the two types will come into play. Another way of explaining those two types is either position-based or position-based or interest-based negotiations. Whether you're doing a personal negotiation, either you have an interest or you're taking a position. An organization can have an interest or they can take a position. And when I say an interest, we're saying what is the interest of the negotiator or the negotiating team in that. And when you say a position, it's almost competitive because the organization says, this is our position, or the person says, this is my position on this. So what this is, the one on the notes could have unpacked the two major types of negotiation that we're talking about. Christine is saying she's trying to speak, but we can't hear her. When preparing, also consider, in case things don't go well, what are you willing to compromise? Yes, that's important. Christine, not really even what you're willing to compromise. You must know when to walk away sometimes, because for some negotiations, you may really need to walk away from that negotiation. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for your organization, you might as well walk away from that negotiation. And most of the sometimes, organizations have walked away from negotiations. But remember again, that will depend on what strategy you have adopted. Is it an avoidance? And the only way you're going to do avoidance is when you have a partner, and you talked about a partner as having an alternative to that negotiated agreement. So thank you for that. I hope we have clarified. Then there is also, as we're talking about negotiations, I'm now transiting to the other area that talk about when we are discussing the unit on communication is presentation skills. Barasa, kindly put down your hand, and if you want to ask another question, we'll give you a chance. Do you? All right, thank you.
Sorry.
All right, thank you. Can we ask Alfred to mute, please? Alfred, kindly mute. Let me proceed with presentation skills as we wait to welcome our colleague, Madam Helen, to speak to us on the other areas. But let me speak about presentation skills. Presentation skills is another important aspect, especially in leadership communication, because we will be doing presentations. A lot of times, the leader will be called upon to make a presentation. Yeah, maybe I just want to ask you on the chart, what is the worst presentation that you have ever attended and what happened? Just give an overview. Have you ever been in a bad presentation situation? What happened in that presentation? So another 1 minute, then I'll read about 3 remarks. Presentation skills. And the question is, have you ever been in a bad presentation? If so, what happened in that presentation? So 1 minute for your comments, please.
Will you give me chance? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm back to see what you have written or your hand. Okay, I'm seeing CSO Kwiho. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Owino. There was a presentation I did that was really not good. And the reason I didn't have the content, and I was before people, and I was really the one to give the way forward to the meeting. And I didn't have the content. I didn't know the real core of what to present. I was really disappointed, and I lacked confidence, and I didn't achieve to my best. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kwiho. I'm here laughing. I hope I know some of your colleagues are also laughing. What happened, Madam Kwiho? Were you informed in advance that you're going to make a presentation?
Yeah, I was informed. You know where I am? I'm in Kuria land, and they're still practicing female circumcision. So it was a meeting concerning the same, and it was a meeting of the health officers. So as an education officer, I was invited to give a presentation on the same.
Yes.
But I didn't know more about this circumcision, how it's done, even though I was an educationist that area, but I didn't have what really I didn't know more about it. So I realized that lack of content may really embarrass you when you are presenting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Kwiho, and thank you for sharing. Any reaction to Madam Kwiho's comment? Any reactions to Madam Kwiho? Anybody who has been in that situation? And how did you come out of it, or how can you come out of it? Thank you so much for sharing, Madam Kwiho. Any reactions to the CSO? Okay, can I read what is on the charts? What are people saying? You are saying presenter was not well prepared and had not internalized the presentation, no visual aids to follow on the presentation, and the presenter was very tense. I wonder whether you are describing Madam Kwiho, Mr. Immature, but all right. One presenter the whole day, I was ambushed, and the meeting was starting in 3 minutes. We call that being thrown under the bus. I attended a presentation where, due to lack of preparation and internalizing content, the presenter read every word. Over 48-page presentation. Wow. I was asked to present on the subject matter that I'm not competent at, using slides prepared by another person. Well, then there was Q&A. You saw stars. Who is this who saw stars? Baras. Then Felima attended one where the speaker was not audible and not jovial. You dozed the whole time. Then Christine is saying the presenter did not have content. Online presentation where the facilitator did not switch on their video. And on that point, my video is hereby on, Mr. Aaron Dirangu. And Anorshia slides, they were presenting, they just spoke continuously. Maureen says they asked the presenter, asked to present content made by someone else just a few minutes before the session. And it was a huge audience. Unprepared presenter, lack of presentation materials and concepts were all over. Lack of preparation. Geoffrey Kande says, Faith is reacting to Geoffrey Kande. Yes, the presenter reading everything in the presentation. Where? 100 pages. Edina Gesare says, my worst, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, and when I was there ready to present, I was told they did not have the necessary equipment. I can imagine, Edna. Then Boniface is saying a presentation that I was required to represent my supervisor. The presentation required past knowledge from the previous meeting that I was not prepared for. Hey, okay. Then Kelvin is saying the presenter came late and was not well prepared. They lacked an agenda for the presentation, and this made the mood of the meeting very uncomfortable. It's vital to understand your environment. The presenter's PPT was too wordy, an online presentation meant for diaspora audience. The session was hacked, and the hackers displayed inappropriate content, which was shocking before the meeting was called to order. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Lack of preparation. Then Bulle Mohammed says a presentation where I was a facilitator with hundreds of audience. Shortly, power went off and never resumed. To date, training was suspended. He was shocked. Lack of preparation, yes. Hilma Honorable Sylvia says the presenter was not prepared. Okay, Elijah Kungu, very tiny fonts, you can hardly see. Eric Chege, I was running the projector for an assistant manager who was presenting to general managers and managers. They said managers stopped midway and told me, continue from there. Okay. Eric Chege, I believe you must have been part of the preparation. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for your responses, members. It's so hilarious what can go on in a presentation, but notably, we are underscoring the concept of preparation, prior preparation, and also practicing your presentation and just ensuring that you have a backup. It happens to us a lot as facilitators. You go to make a presentation and the systems just don't work. So having a backup is very, very important. Sometimes you have to print, because I was also doing a presentation to some leaders somewhere, and when I went in, they said, Madam, it is too hot in here, where there was the projector and everything else. And they said, can we go under the tree? And so having mastered your content, you are comfortable, all right? And you go outside under the tree and the presentation takes on a new life of its own, which we must be prepared for, especially when you are presenting to adult learners. Another instance, or something that is important, is knowing your audience. Because in another instance, in one of my presentations, I had prepared with very good English, the one that comes from UK. And when I went in and started presentation, I hadn't done my audience analysis, only to pose a question after I'm talking for about 10 minutes. And I said, can somebody have a question in what we are discussing? And somebody said, in Kiswahili, and very honestly and timidly, mwalimu hatukuelewi. And when I quickly did my analysis of the class attendance sheet, I realized that the category, the level I'm prepared for is not the people who are in the room. And so you quickly change your presentation, turned my good English into Kiswahili, forgot my slides, and said, let us talk. Hebu tufungue roho tuongee. So it's very important to do an audience analysis and be prepared and practice your presentation. Then you do the presentation. And also, another area where we could have challenges most of the time as presenters is the Q&A. Sometimes when you do audience analysis, you may realize that you might have people in the room who are very knowledgeable as you are starting your presentation. And one thing that I can assure you is you can leverage on the knowledge that is already in the room. So when the question comes, you can have a discussion of the Q&A, especially the areas that you are not very sure. I'm not saying the speaker should not be very sure, but at least the speaker is not the owner of all the knowledge. You can get some responses from the class to help you in managing the Q&A and also controlling the Q&As, because when you're doing a presentation, questions can come in, maybe you have some content that you really must deliver, so you can be able to control the Q&A and say, can we discuss this? Then we are able to answer your question at some other, after you have made your presentation. So I think presentation skills is important for all of us, whether you're presenting from manuscript. I know you're aware you can read the manuscript, especially when you are reading somebody else's maybe speech. Maybe you are in the national government. Maybe a senior leader was to come, they're not able to make it, then they give you a speech, then you will read from the manuscript. But you can also present using what you're calling the talking papers, or contemporaneously, right? You just have the talking papers that you're using to make your presentation. Some of us are also very good. We can memorize our presentation and present from memory. Only be very sure that you cannot miss the flow of your presentation. The other one is the impromptu speech or impromptu presentations. Those ones you just must be ready. Just like my colleague here was saying, he was told now continue from that point. Yeah. So which means even as you're doing the projecting, you're also not going as a tabula rasa. You have run through the presentation, so you are courageous enough to proceed. But most of the time, leaders be prepared to be thrown under the bus. Either the presenter is not very available, or you are told, please stand in, or you are told, now there's a government officer here, let them make a presentation to us. So working on your presentation, working on your audibility when you're presenting. And the other key area that I've seen that you've mentioned is the area of the PowerPoints, all right? So you don't fill your PowerPoint with so many words and so tiny fonts. You try your presentation. When you know that you're going to make a presentation, you try it, at least you go earlier, you check, does it fit with the gadgets that are already there? Even sometimes colors, the colors can change and it's not possible for the listeners to hear or for the listeners to see well. Do we have any questions or any comments on the aspect of presentation skills so far regarding what I have presented and also what your colleagues are asking? Any rejoinders or any comments are welcome. Any comments or any rejoinders are welcome. Okay. I am not seeing any hands. I am also not seeing any comments. CS Quiho, your hand is still up. Do you still want to speak?
No, sorry, sorry.
Okay. All right, thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the presentation that we have had and for the sharing that we have had. I'm now welcoming my colleague, Helen. She's proceeding, we are with her here. She's proceeding to talk about office communication and also meetings. So feel free to ask her any questions. Feel free to share with
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Bear with me, I've been
Good
talking from
afternoon.
8:30.
Afternoon.
So, good afternoon, yeah. Bear with me, my voice is strained. I've been talking from 8:30. Yeah, good afternoon to you. Yeah, I won't keep long because my voice is also now saying bye-bye. It's been talking since morning, but nevertheless, karibuni sana. And the most important thing is just at least to be able to bring everything communication to a close so that we can be able to know that everything rides on communication. Because whatever we try to do, if we are not communicating, we will never get there. And underlying everything communication is the passing on information, regardless of whether you are talking about interpersonal communication, everything speaks everything. And that is why, we normally say that everything in communication is intertwined. In other words, one thing speaks to the other. So allow me to just give a brief overview on that, because I believe my colleague has been able to share that quite well. And I think we can be able to just do a sum up of that. So when we talk about interviewing skills, I'm sorry, I'm using Madam Owino's laptop. Mine has a challenge, and I'm just from class. So bear with me that I will just give an overview. I may not be able to zero in on a lot of issues because I'm seeing time is far much spent, but I believe we'll be able to get something positive done. So when it comes to interviews, every time we talk of interviews, people begin to feel like interviews has to do with jobs. But one of the most important things in communication is if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right information. And interviewing goes beyond just the job interviews. Many times organizations, or we represent organizations when it comes to some negotiations, which we have just gone through. And the question is, if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right feedback. So the idea of interviewing skills at a managerial level is about seeking the right information, clarifying what you need to know so that you are not misunderstood. And that's where the role of interviews comes in. One of the things that you have seen is the current trend whereby a lot of public servants, both from county and national government, are being invited even for as guests in special programs on radio or even on television. And the most important thing is to be conversant with what is expected of you. Because one of the things journalists do many times is to try and prod here and there to see whether you really know your stuff. And remember, in journalism, sometimes we say bad news sells fast. Bad news si ati mtu amekufa. Bad news is where I can be able to cast aspersions on and cause doubt and something close to that. So the most important thing is Madam Lynette, I didn't know you are online. Okay, sawa. Karibu, that's my colleague. Yeah, so the most important thing is to be basically well prepared for any eventuality, but the most important thing is know your staff. Those are the information interviews. We do them all the time as managers because you want people to understand you, to be understood. Very important when you are dealing with activities, when you are dealing with if I can call them functions and so on. When it comes to appraisals, we need to ask the right questions to get the right feedback. When we are dealing with clients and maybe there are agreements, we may need to, things we need to agree to, we need to know how to ask the right questions to get the right feedback when we want to give advice and to even exchange information. Okay, it is covered. Sorry, Madam Lynette, my laptop is not working. That's why I'm a bit stranded. Sorry. Just a moment, participants.
Sorry, Madam Helen, please just proceed.
Sawa. Okay. So information interviews are those that are required of a professional like yourselves, meaning you must know your staff. And information interviews, you don't whatever. It could be in any scenario where you may be asked to certain questions that have to do with the mandate of your organization, you as a professional, maybe citizens or other organizations seeking advice from you. Those are information interviews. Then the one that I know we have really elaborated about on year after year as people who are growing professionally have been job interviews. A lot of issues to do with interviews have been kind of skewed towards job interviews, and that's basically not what we are supposed to do, but I just wanted to touch on that. Sorry, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Just a moment. Sorry, sorry about that. So the other bit are the job interviews. My colleague will cover that because that's a very extensive bit. And as I come to meetings, one of the most important thing is basically to appreciate that even in meetings, we need to understand. We am getting messages on this laptop. Somebody. No, they are external. They don't know. It's like somebody's trying to communicate to us. Sawa. Sorry about that, and sorry about I couldn't. My laptop has an issue, so allow me to just proceed with this one. So the other very important thing that we wanted to point out, my colleague will go through the job interviews, is just to try and talk about the issue about interviews also goes beyond just you as a professional, because even in meetings, as my colleague has covered, you must be able to ask the right questions to get the right responses. So when you get that opportunity, ask the right questions to get the right responses. Sorry, there was some interruption in the room. Yeah. So basically, that's the bit I wanted to touch. My colleague will expound on that. The issue about meetings requires that very important aspect to be able to ask questions without looking like you're interrogating, you're intimidating somebody, or trying to create aspersion or doubts in that scenario. So the idea is to basically to help you see interviewing skills go beyond just information. Interviews have a larger scope than just job interviews, which my colleague will cover. So meetings, basically, you went through the slides, are very key to ensuring that we are able to enhance communication internally and externally with our clients. And one of the issues that is also very important when it comes to meetings is negotiations, and that my colleague has covered. And one of the things that we need to stress is meetings are meetings. So the way what differs from one meeting to the next is the level of formality. Obviously, at the level of the cabinet, we are more formal at the cabinet level, even at boards and other committees, than we are when it comes to office or basically workplace meetings. So the formal meetings are more rigorous with the level of formality enhanced. They are very strict about notice, very strict about quorum, and even timings. All meetings tend to be held during working days, obviously, but a lot of the formal meetings are very clear about the time when the members would prefer to have meetings. Long gone are night meetings, which was also a preserve of very many government entities where a meeting would start at 2 and 9 people are still in a meeting. And obviously, over the many 20 years or so, we have, as a nation, moved from there and improved on how we communicate even in meetings. The key components of meetings, I feel, are very explanatory, and these are different schools of thought who basically look at meetings from different perspectives. So I would say like the underlying concepts or pillars behind official meetings, the 9 components of meetings, 5 P's of meetings, and the 3 C's. And that is a later school of thought that is quite fluid. In other words, it depends on the thinking, what is fashionable in this school of thought. And slowly, as people move to other areas, issues about the 3 C's are becoming less important to a lot of people, because this group of people feel as long as you convene, as long as you constitute a meeting, as long as you conduct a meeting, those are the most important things. But for us in Kenya, we feel the issue of having a purpose is important. Having the right people for the right meeting gives that meeting a sense of authority and direction. We believe a senior person, a person who is conversant, needs to chair the meeting. We need to have the right people for the right meeting. And we also need to make it look like a meeting. Because I don't know, there's one experience I had that was amusing but quite surprising. I attended an official meeting, and the chair was telling us very nice stories, and we enjoyed. And then at the end, he said, "I think there is nothing else." Then members asked, aren't we having a meeting? The chair said, "We are finished. We have covered everything." But the rest of us didn't know we are in a meeting. So it must start. And that's why you must call the meeting to order, and it must come to an end so that people know the meeting has ended. And that really facilitates the meeting minute taker to be able to take accurate basically minutes. We call it to capture the accuracy of the discussions that occurred in that meeting, because the minutes are the output from that. So the idea of the stages or steps in the meeting process was proposed by Professor Sturges. Post-COVID, we've never heard of him. I personally have not heard of him. But he left something that I think is a very important concept in meetings. Look at meetings from the pre-meeting stage, during the meeting stage or step and post-meeting. When you do that, it's easier to be able to have meetings that add value because you are able to look at the preparation stage, know what the role of the chair is, secretary and members. I believe you went through that, and even what the role of the secretary is, because it's very unprofessional for the chair to look at somebody and say, you take minutes. The person was not psychologically prepared, and that is not very good etiquette when it comes to meetings. Another very important thing, because I know you went through the notes, even as a member of the meetings, have a notebook, capture what was said. No one is perfect. This will help even members to basically endorse the minutes as a true reflection in the next meeting, because there will be confidence that this is what transpired. So the meetings should not be left to the secretary and the chair. The members also play a very important role. The other thing is not to ask people what the agenda is in the meeting, because the next process is the conducting the meeting stage, meaning the agenda was shared and that people must have looked through the agenda and are ready to contribute. That means it's not on the onus is not only on the chair, but the secretary and members too actually read through background information, books, and other relevant information that will point or give some light or shed light or add more information into in the discussion as the agenda is tabled in the meeting. So it should not be about people saying, I feel, I think, I believe. Those words usually imply people have not really taken time to go through some background information, because you can't base decisions on I feel we should do this. What is supporting you? When you say I feel, enhance that with some credible information, maybe because the budget, this has been budgeted, or because this, that, and has been done. There needs to be a way you can enhance credibility, so that the onus is both not only for the chair, but also the members as well. Obviously, in that stage, we normally say the secretary should be able to capture accurate notes. We call them notes for the minutes, and ask where they are not sure. Another very important thing is preparing an action matrix. Many times we forget that, what we've been instructed to do in meetings. And so experts or people who basically revolve around issues of management communication have felt that the action matrix that has been so useful to our colleagues in the technical and science areas should also be helpful and useful to people doing something like meetings. An action matrix allows even the chair or even somebody a team member in the meeting, a member, to be able to remind people, consult others on actions that must be undertaken and reported back in the meeting. So that's very important. It doesn't look good when in a meeting somebody says, I didn't do anything about that. It really is one of the time wasters. So that is basically, those are the key things I wanted to share when it comes to meetings. And the minute writing template basically endorses the fact that the most important thing is to ensure that the meeting basically has the right number or the required number of people that should have attended or were actually informed about the meeting prior to that. And the only thing I want to point out that the person in attendance basically is not a bona fide member, and the person, depending on the discretion of the chair, may allow the person to leave after they have shared what they need to leave. Sometimes the chair may feel, since this is somebody who is knowledgeable of what we are discussing, that person can remain. But that's the most important thing. The only thing I wanted to point out is when it comes to matters arising, remember matters arising were discussed in a previous meeting. And many of them were actions to various people. Please note that under matters arising, they appear with the minute number they had in the original meeting. That's the most important thing I wanted to point out in minutes, because many people bring the issues under matters arising like it's new agenda. It creates confusion in that meeting. Remember, matters arising were issues, people were actioned, queries that were made. Somebody was told to report back or to undertake something, and so on and so forth. So matters arising is not looking through the minutes and asking somebody, do you have a matters arising? That is not professional. Do you have a matters arising? I know that happens a lot, but if we are talking about one of the effective ways of ensuring meetings are successful is preparation, then how can I be prepared about something that you are asking me in that meeting under matters arising? So that is something that people do, and it is not correct. That's not the correct way. Matters arising are issues in the previous or other previous meetings where individuals or departments were assigned specific tasks to undertake and report back at a specific time. So and that's why in the 21st century, we are tracking down even these issues under matters arising, the actionable issues, because usually people forget. And to improve on that, organizations are now, after a meeting, you're issued with a memo to remind you that following this meeting, you are action to undertake this, so that you don't forget, because there is so much happening in the 21st century. We sometimes are bound to actually forget. So the other bit I wanted to look at is office communication. And office communication for senior management, because office communication is very broad and a lot of you know that. But we are just looking at the office bit, the office communication and office correspondence. And one of the things we basically say is that office communication uses a number of platforms that enhance that our communication. Even when you talk of meetings are also part of that umbrella of office communication. But when it comes to specific office communication, apart from the meetings, we talk about event reports. We also talk about correspondence. And I'll zero in on correspondence, the letter, memo, or email. And I believe you went through the slides, the issues that you need to consider to ensure that your correspondence is not only well written, but it communicates. And the issue is in writing, just like everything else, communication, everything we do must have a plan. And you must ensure that plan conforms to what exactly you want to communicate. That's very important. It relies, not borrows, a lot on your writing skills, the ability to write and to write well, good sentence structure, vocabulary, and knowledge of information. Remember, in writing, even a simple letter like an application letter, begin with the most important points, end with those that are less important. It's not that they are not important, but less important. The weakness in a lot of writing, whether we are writing minutes, whether we are writing letters, is explaining your points or giving information to support your point. That's the most important thing. The assumption is the reader can recheck. The reader can call or ask. Explain your points clearly. That's the most important thing. And use common and concrete words. It's not a place we normally say for you to test how clever your colleagues are, because you have used very high level vocabulary. It's a place where you just use common, what we call concrete words that everybody in the office will understand without feeling intimidated, or without having to feel like you want them to check the dictionary on and off. The other bit is also to conform to the rules of good letter writing, because a letter is basically one way of passing information between us and our stakeholders. And even when human resource uses letters to communicate to us internally, we can definitely also agree we are also internal stakeholders. So the memo heads are borrowed just from the letter because it was felt. For internal communication, it would be good to have something that can facilitate internal communication. The rules are more or less similar, but it focuses more on internal communication, and its role is to facilitate internal communication. The email borrowed from the memo head template, and today we have the emails basically doing the same thing memos do. In fact, today we use the email to facilitate the movement of letters and memos, both internally and externally, and that basically has enhanced communication in the workplace by even reducing the downtime that we need to ensure the recipients get our information. So I believe that's what I wanted to basically touch on. The other issue is confidentiality, and at your level, I believe this is something that you know, especially the classification of government correspondence from top secret, secret, confidential. I believe most of us here will handle confidential and restricted, and I think having gone through the slides, I believe you know that is something that we need to abide by. So that's basically what I wanted to cover in both meetings and office communication. Yeah, and maybe we can have some feedback, Madam Otori, maybe 3 minutes, and I allow you because I have 3 more minutes, and then we could move on to 3:30. Yeah. Anybody else with something to add? You can add something. This is a very important point of sharing. We normally say at this level, we are not custodians of all knowledge. We learn, you learn, and that's how we sharpen each other, because every new day, new information, new ways of doing things. But basically, this is the standard way in which government basically handles office communication in line with senior management course.
No, oh my God.
Go ahead.
That's now? Uko ofisi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody's on a phone call.
Sorry? Uko kwa kinywa? Thank you. Nataka kujua tu nimekaa wapi.
Chepchumba. Okay, let's hear from participants. What do you have to add?
Madam Helen, Felima has a hand up.
Sorry, I'm using somebody's laptop.
Felima has a hand up.
Okay.
Felima.
Go ahead. Just speak, please.
Okay. All right. Mine is not to add, but I have a question. And my question is on the first topic we talked about, the minutes. So when on our notes we saw that there are formal meetings and the less formal. And for the formal ones is maybe the big ones like the board, AGM, and maybe cabinet and all that. And the ones usually hold in the offices are now like the less formal one. So what could be the difference? What is the difference? What makes this one formal and this one less formal? Because now in the discussion was only handled for the formal meetings only, but for the less formal, so we don't know what makes them to be less formal.
What makes it to be? Thank you very much. That's a very good question, Felima. Formal meetings, the business handled. At the level of cabinet and board, it's strategy. At the level of management, where SMC is operational. So what happens? They make decisions, you action them. That's it's a level of formality. In fact, there's in another class, the Nyumba Kumi. It's still a meeting, but it's now at another lower level. Are we together? Do you see the level of formality depends on the content of the meeting?
Oh, okay,
like
but the format is the same.
The format is more or less the same, although you can use you know, it depends because like you know, now Nyumba Kumi is a bit out there. We can't talk about that because if you have been in a Nyumba Kumi, it depends on who is taking. We call them notes for the minutes. They may use their own. There is no whatever, but the structure is the same. It's more or less the same. for board minutes, for whatever, it's more or less the same. The most important thing about minutes is capturing what exactly was discussed. That's very important. And what members, what was discussed and what was the decision made, the point of agreement after which you proceed to the next agenda. And you don't capture what people say, you capture, we normally say, like, in a lot of things in the 21st century, I can smell a rose in a lotion, in an oil, in a air freshener, but in that air freshener, there is no rose flower. So in the same way, we say minutes capture the essence of the meeting, what was discussed, what was the major contribution from. You can't capture everything, and you need also to be non-emotive. Like now, if people, some people don't, if somebody said, I don't like that, I'm not of that opinion. Just say, other members, you be calm and collected. Other members were of the opinion. That's a better way of putting it. In other words, obviously you don't capture some meetings have a lot of drama, so you don't capture that drama. Others may not progress like a meeting, but it is your role to organize, because I don't know, there are meetings where the chair might say, let's move to this agenda and come back to that. That happened in the real meeting, but stick to what was in the agenda. Because if you start bringing an agenda was like this, and then you don't say the chair agreed, sometimes the chair may do that for one reason or the other. So that's why we say minutes are a reflection of what transpired. So meetings, you can go to the internet and look at board minutes. In some countries, you can see, you'll just see its a semblance. What differs is the level of formality. There are many templates of minutes, and that's why we have been talking about standardization, so that people agree as an organization what is it that, how do you want your minutes to look. But generally in government, most minutes more or less are more or less similar templates, has been in use for quite a while, and with variations, minor variations here and there, and I think that works. But if you go to the private sector, some people may have something a bit different. If you go if you work with Americans on a project, they find our minutes too detailed, but it's because for us, there could be litigation issues that may arise from that. So for us, we prefer to be a bit detailed because we understand our issues here better. Yeah. Another thing.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe just a point of clarity. I don't know whether I didn't get well. Is when the minutes are written, do you write individual names when you're quoting maybe a statement said by somebody as just you're trying to explain, or the offices they hold? Maybe some clarity on that.
No, in a meeting, you don't do that. You can't say like the HR manager. Obviously, if I look at the list of attendants, I'll know who was a HR manager. Just say one member. Remember, it's about building consensus. One member proposed, other members agreed. So you don't do that. You don't do that. Don't pinpoint names. The only person we identify is the chair, because the chair reminded members. The chair pointed out that some members were of the opinion that this would be preferable. That's the meeting language. Once, if you do names, nobody will say anything. It's not only a Kenyan issue, because remember, the way people in the 21st century are running to, it's not only a Kenyan issue, they are running to court to sort out issues. People feel like they'll be implicated or misunderstood. Yeah, and remember, it's capturing what was there. So that could be an issue. Yeah, but that's a very good question. It's good to remind that. I remember The first time when I left high school, I got a kibarua. And remember, we used to do minutes. Hey, kumbe za kazini si kama zile zilikuwa English textbook. So I wrote names. Hey, that person was so annoyed with me that I've written names. That was my first lesson. But now when I went to our college and I studied this, it's now when it made sense. But at that time, alinisomea that who told you to write names? So it was for me a big lesson, but that's a very good question. I sometimes forget to point it out, yeah.
Yes, can I please?
Yeah.
Yes, I also have another question on office correspondence. You see, when we are doing letters or maybe memo, at what point, what gives the authority to use office of, for example, like office of the deputy director, office of the laboratory in charge, for example, which ones should you use? For example, I'm giving a typical scenario, for example, where I work, there is a laboratory, which is directly under a deputy there's a deputy in charge of the entire region, but there is a separate office, but that office, the laboratory in charge is under the deputy director. So when this laboratory in charge, for example, is has to write memos to laboratory staff only, how is the letterhead? Kindly, if you can clarify on that. So do they use the office of the director?
If the person in charge is writing internally, they can't use a letterhead. They use a memo head.
Which, for example, will read.
The memo head has to and froms. You know the memo template?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you are writing internally, if he or she is writing to the staff, they'll use a memo head. They won't use a letterhead.
Okay. Yeah.
Isn't that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So that's why we've come up with memo heads for internal communication, because the issues that where you can write a letter internally are HR related issues. And I think you have noticed that because HR related issues are private. Number two, highly confidential information is where we use letters. So it's not a common practice internally, but HR does that. Yeah, they write to you individually. Even like when you've, I'm just giving an example, when somebody has overstayed their leave, out of one or two issues, they'll remind, then they won't, many times, I would tell you almost 98%, they'll write a letter so that the person, to make the person know that they have taken note that the person maybe exceeded their leave days or things like that. So you don't write, you just don't write a letter internally, just like that. Yeah. And then confidential information. Yes, that's the other bit. Information that warrants confidentiality. I don't know, it depends on the organization. For many organizations, HR issues are very sensitive, and they could even result in people going to court. So it's you to use your discretion. There are things that are basically marked as confidential as per the preference of the organization. That's quite different in terms of, it can't be a common practice through the organization to use letters here and to use memos here when you want. So letters internally are basically confidential information. Yeah, and human resource related issues where the writer feels they are confidential. Yeah.
Okay,
and
I
that
want to
is
ask
why,
something.
Sorry, come again.
Sorry, continue. Sorry, I wanted to ask
That's
something.
why
Continue.
that's why it's good to have memo heads as well in the organization, so that you can be able to do both, so that you don't run into that temptation of using a letter, because that in fact the question that one would ask after you write the letter, where will it be filed? And all you are telling somebody is to note that the office working hours are from 8 to 5. You see, that is a bit absurd. Yeah. Then there's also email communication. Obviously, it helps transmit information. Anything else? Because my colleague needs also to come on board.
Something, Madam. So, thank you for the good presentation. I want to ask I think 1, 2, or 3 things again, just on the letter and on the email also. On the letter, sometimes people write a letter through certain individuals. You address an office, but you address through another individual again.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, can I finish? That's okay. So you find that some of the times they have to sign on you have to pass through them. These are the individual signs, and you go to the other office. Maybe I want a guidance on that. I want guidance on that. And then the other thing is also in the letters, you will find that there are a lot of CCs. Those CCs, which they normally say in the offices, in the correspondences. And maybe those individuals to whom it has been, those copies has been sent to, is it a must that it should reach them? Sometimes maybe it's just like a formality people write, but it does not at times even reach them. And then also, the other one is on the email. The emails normally is written to an individual, then there are other copies. There are other people who are copied. An individual is written to, like maybe I write an email to you now, maybe and copy other people. So who is supposed to respond to this email? Is it this individual is responded to, or these other people who are copied to? Do they respond? Maybe some clarity on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Email communication, if I write, for example, to the HOD and copy my colleagues, for example, the person who should respond should be my HOD. The rest who have been copied, they are copied on a need to know. They are not supposed to respond. It's like when you write a letter and to somebody, it's the same, the spirit is the same. The people who have been copied that letter cannot respond to that letter. That is one. Are we clear on that?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
That one. Yeah. When you write, that's why you notice in email there's the 2 slot. The 2 slot, the person who you write to, the other CC, well, CC means copied to. When you are copied to, you are not supposed to respond. All you can do, for example, you can say acknowledge receipt, whatever it is, maybe it's all you do, but you can't comment on that issue because you are copied on a need to know basis. So the person who, like a lot of things, we do that a lot in the office, where a head of department will write to staff and copy them on a need to know. But now if they write to somebody, they can't, maybe won't copy the entire staff, maybe the other people. But you find that when it comes to email, we are more relaxed. We can even respond, and now we start a thread. I think that's what you are implying, where like now, not the entire staff base is copied. Just a few of us may be copied, then we comment. So like, for example, this could be colleagues working on something together. This could be people who understand the issue. That one would be okay. I wouldn't, unless it's malicious, I don't think that, whatever. So if it's copied to you, you can respond, because if it's copied to you, just I need to know, but many times you find that you are also privy to that information, so you facilitate communication. That one, there is no fast rule about that. But when you have done a BCC, you should not respond, because remember, the recipient doesn't know you are a BCC. So if you write, that now is breaking the rules of privilege, because that would not be good. So BCC is where I would say you shouldn't bother replying, because you have been informed on a need to know basis. But CC, especially if it's work related, there's nothing wrong personally, unless somebody has another opinion. I feel that one is still okay, because that's how we communicate. But the issue you mentioned is, you mentioned a letter. When it's copied, are you talking of a letter or an email?
A letter for the first one.
The first one, a letter.
Yes.
A letter sent to somebody, a client or a member of staff.
Maybe you'll find that most of the times there is a letter sent, maybe it could be even a disciplinary letter written to somebody, and then maybe other offices are also informed.
Hey, I need to be guided. HR is very confidential about that. Won't those offices be under BCC?
I'm not sure, but they normally say even file copy. You know,
some would, but not all. Remember issues of like disciplinary. Like now, imagine I'm under disciplinary, so all my colleagues are copied, including my supervisors. I think they would be very careful with that. Usually, it's on a need-to-know basis, and usually they'll use the BCC, especially on issues like disciplinary. But if it's any other issue, it doesn't matter, because it's good to just let people know. But issues of human resource, today when people can take you to court because you infringed on their privacy, we need to be very careful when it comes to personal. Maybe somebody can add on to that. Tiba, is it clear with you now?
Clear, thank you so much.
Yeah, like if I'm writing, like many times, even here we do that. If I'm coordinating a course, and maybe a participant has had an issue, maybe, for example, not attending a long course regularly, I can write to that participant as a course coordinator. I would BCC the HOD and maybe the deputy director. The participant shouldn't know I have done that. But if the person, it becomes a continued issue, that's how now they come in and say that, because now they will have the correspondence. Yeah. Yeah. So that one, I think it's not fair. Let's not intimidate people. Yeah. I'm being told my time is out. Any other pressing thing?
Yes, yes, madam. Can I?
Yes, because my time is almost running out. My colleague needs to come in.
Okay. Sorry for coming in at this time. But my question is on the memorandum. When it comes to the to and fro, is it really like cast on stones that we should start with to and then followed by from? Or the level of seniority based on who is writing the memorandum should be followed? For example, if I am writing to my junior, I can start from me, but if it's a junior writing to a senior, it should start with to.
If you read all the business books in the world, especially from the English speaking, memos are for internal communication. The original proponents or the people who proposed the memos never envisioned a situation where would look at levels of seniority, especially in Kenya. That has been an issue. Memos are for internal, and read any business communication book. There are so many in the market, textbook center, online, and you'll find that memos are for internal communication. They envisioned a situation where we'll be working like colleagues, and remember, it came from the West. But when it comes to government, there's a sensitivity not in all government entities, but in quite a number, about the junior to senior, senior to junior, but it's not an issue of, it's more of an organization issue. I facilitated the similar courses that have, especially the business writing courses, and it's not, I can't say it's across all government entities. It usually depends on the culture of the organization. You find that the later entrants or the organizations that have the more recent in terms of maybe they came up in the late 90s, they do things a little bit more differently. So it's not something that is cast on stone. It's more of a cultural issue. And that's why it's good for organizations to come up with a template so that we follow that template, so that we don't keep saying, am I writing to a senior? Am I writing to a junior? The 21st century is talking more of colleagues, not juniors and seniors. So it's a cultural issue. And when it comes to culture, you just do what that culture requires of you. But it's not cast in stone. It's a cultural issue. And you can read that on business, whatever. So with that, I'm being told my time is up, but the emails, I think, are on our slides. You can feel free to contact us and we'll be able to respond or even have a chat on WhatsApp with you. I think because normally this session is very lengthy and the 2 hours sometimes actually are not very adequate. So with that, let's allow my colleague to come in and also share something that is equally important, because all we are talking about is about etiquette. There's writing etiquette, we have gone through that, and now we want to be told something about public service etiquette. So it doesn't end there. You can contact us and we can have further discussions, even in other forums, not necessarily online. So with that, Madam Limnet, you can come in. Yeah. So we wish you well and we pray that you'll do well and exceed our expectations. Thank you.
Thank you.
To Madam Otori.
Yes. Thank you very much, my colleague Helen and Madam Elizabeth, who've gone before us. I can still hear people. Mercy, kindly mute. Madam Helen has been talking about muting, and I'm happy that in one of my slides, one of the things that we shall talk about is virtual meeting etiquette. So please just have your microphones and videos muted. So I will be very quick. I'll say something small about public service etiquette. I'll also ask you to make some comments. And then I will wind up with a short snapshot on the job interviews that my colleague has talked about. So before we proceed, kindly put on the post, on the chat, one irritating mannerism. What normally irritates you the most? If you can kindly quickly put on the chat. And as we wait for that, you can also feel free to have your hand up or just unmute and say what irritates you the most, whether it is within public service, at work, or within your social networks. Kindly put on the chat.
People eating while during interviews.
Faith.
Yes.
People eating during interviews.
Yes.
Goodness, that's unheard of.
It's there in the public
service. Is it the panel or the
panel?
The interviewee. The panel.
The panel.
The panel. Thank you. Any other irritating mannerism? It doesn't have to be about interviews. Phone scrolling, Beatrice, private, loud phones. Any other? Diba, is your hand up? Any other?
That's an earlier hand, but obviously.
Okay, please bring it down. Chewing, failing to mute.
The other mannerism includes like maybe when you're doing presentation, pocketing, chewing gums. Yes.
Chewing gum, multiple interjections, fronting, otherwise known as what? Loud ringtones, chewing while speaking. All right. Thank you very much.
Madam,
now, I want to give you.
Madam, just a question.
Yes.
When I remember when I was employed in a private sector bank, the HR took us through the mannerism. How a man should dress, how a lady should dress. But nowadays, we rarely see that thing followed. Was the HR manual changed or what happened? On short skirts or tights or something, makeups.
Can you pack it? That's Humokaya. Please pack it. We will talk about it in the end. Okay. Asante sana. All right, thank you. You can keep sharing so that we have a look at them. Now, it's very easy to point out what somebody else does that irritates you. So the question I want to ask is, how easily, or do you have an idea about the mannerisms that you have that irritate other people? Because what you have pointed out is basically what other people do that irritate you. So it's good to do some introspection. There's an African proverb that says, you don't ask for a chair when you visit a place and the chief himself sits on the floor. You don't ask for a chair when you visit a place where the chief himself is basically sitting on the floor. So basically telling us, when you go to Rome, you do as the Romans do. So when we talk about etiquette, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to appreciate the fact that we have different cultural backgrounds. We have been socialized differently. And because of that, we then behave differently. But you realize, even after being socialized in different manners, we definitely get together in a work environment. And then we now have to behave in a manner that is comfortable for everybody. Quickly, if some of the common mistakes I have seen or observations I have made, sometimes you ask somebody, or you're in a forum, and of course you want to introduce yourself. When you say my names are, you're basically putting a stain on your white shirt. Even if you're going to say 3 names, my name is Alfred Kadare, and you add your other name. So you don't say my names are. And if you're going to introduce other people, remember that protocol demands that the hierarchy, you respect hierarchy, and you let junior officers basically meet senior officers. So ladies and gentlemen, etiquette is basically about common sense. 3 things I like emphasizing when we talk about etiquette. 1 is pragmatic thinking. You're faced with a situation and you're not very sure how to behave. Just think, use your common sense, although I'm told common sense is not very common these days, and basically just have manners. Now, Mokaya has asked a good question, and that brings me to what I am calling the basics of etiquette. I think one of us said on the chat, one of the mannerisms that irritate is pocketing. The gentleman here, you remember, perhaps when you were in primary school, you'd even actually be beaten for putting your hands in the pocket. But it is very common these days to go to a very serious forum. You find somebody is there making a presentation on behalf of their organization, and their hands are where? In the pocket. Then in the process, of course, you start taking them to the wrong places. You end up embarrassing yourself. So please, it doesn't make you a less leader to use courtesy words. You remember the magic words? Please, thank you, excuse me, and use them genuinely. So issues of punctuality, I will not overemphasize. Respecting other people. We've talked about chewing gum. I think I have seen people post that. No speaking. One time I had a session with the Parliamentary Commission staff, and when I asked for examples of irritating mannerisms, one gentleman said, "Madam, there is a member of parliament in my committee." In fact, for him, he doesn't pick his nose. He said he digs so hard, and then whatever he fishes out, he pushes under the table. You can imagine how irritating that can be. And then let me say something about telephone etiquette. We attend high-level meetings, and of course, we don't have formal phones. We're always using our personal phones to transact the business of our organizations and basically to transact the business of government. Be very careful with your ringtone and with your ringback tone. Imagine your CS is calling you, or the PS is calling, and what do they hear? Who is being called? Margaret. Huh? Thank you for calling Margaret. Did you know Margaret is a beautiful name that means I thought you should know? Seriously? That is, you know, I really wonder why people have such weird tones. I can hear the gentleman laughing. Dennis, men are even more ridiculous. So the CS is calling you, or the governor is calling you. How haki hiyo sichukui, haki hiyo sinyanyui. Then you finish by saying haki hiyo ni miss call. Alfred, surely. Have a neutral, respectable ringtone. One time we had a high-level conference at KSG, and there was this gentleman seated at our corner. I think he had forgotten to have his phone on silent mode. How did the phone ring? Seriously? Somebody can actually move on top, jump on top of a table, thinking there's a cat in the room. Image is everything. Remember, you never have a second chance to create a good first impression. And that's why impressions are not called second impressions. So please make sure that your telephone mannerisms are in line. What else do I want to say? Let me say something about virtual meeting etiquette, even though we have kept on emphasizing. There are different platforms. Familiarize yourselves with them. I think our coordinator, Madam Jacqueline Wanjangi, is here. She's the IT expert. These platforms come with different tools. Familiarize yourself with them. Diba, you can now put down your hand. Yeah, there are ways in which you can put up your hand. You can indicate to the moderator or the session chair that you have something to say. So you don't have to keep interrupting. Learn how to share the screen. You know, sometimes we sit in a meeting, 10 minutes into the meeting, we are still waiting because Convene is struggling to do what? To learn how to share the screen. Let me say something about the microphone and video. One time in a class like this one, it was a senior management class online. So I was facilitating, and there was this gentleman, his video was on, so you could actually see like he was in his living room. And then I think children came from school. You know, COVID found us with homes that have no offices. So whichever room is free, that's where you occupy. So we saw the gentleman move to what looked like his bedroom because he sat on a bed, laptop on the laps, and then, of course, he continued listening. Minutes later, the wife appears from the bathroom and throws off her towel. You can imagine how embarrassing that can be. So please learn to have your video off, your microphone off, unless you're really on the floor. Let me say something about titles and official forms of address. We have academic titles and professional titles. Your doctor, engineer, architect, address officials by their titles and surnames. Don't say Dr. Jane. You say Dr. I can't see your names properly. Use the Kaigongi, for example, or Professor Omondi. You know, I saw Honorable Niliona Mheshimiwa hapa. Anaitwa nani? Yeah. So Honorable Sylvia is her title. Honorable?
Sylvia.
Sylvia. Sylvia is a member of parliament or senator. What is she? Or MCA or women rep? Or a magistrate?
Judiciary.
Sylvia, let me know. Member of the judiciary, yeah. So honorable is reserved for elected public officials like members of parliament, senators, MCAs, women reps, or their nominated counterparts. So Felima, don't wake up tomorrow. You slept last night and dreamt. You didn't even try. Uliota tu nataka kukua MCA, then tomorrow you want to be called honorable. That is the problem we have in Kenya. The judiciary, we have the magistrates and judges who use that title. Ambassadors, the president and the deputy president will use your excellency. Ambassadors because they're basically representing the president in the countries or in the missions where they have been posted. So if you're posted as an ambassador tomorrow, in the mission, you will be your excellency. But when you come back to Kenya, please leave the title in Austria because that is where you're representing the president. Allow me to say something about compound titles. I have had very senior officers embarrass themselves in a speech or in a statement when they say commissioner generals or inspector generals. Now, if you have a noun that has two nouns, a word that has two nouns, it is the first noun that takes the plural. So you say inspectors general, commissioners general. You don't pluralize the second noun. So a quick one on dressing etiquette. Mokaya, you wondered whether manuals have changed. Remember, by the way, etiquette is dynamic. Right now, we are having a lot of cross generations in the workplace. We have Gen Zs, we have millennials, we have Generation X, we have, who else do we have? The baby boomers. I don't know whether we have traditionalists, but basically etiquette evolves just like society does. And therefore it is important. That is not to say that we should not dress formally or we should stop dressing formally, but we have a responsibility to do mentorship. And we also have a duty to be a little flexible to accommodate the changing generations with their changing times. So yes, Mokaya, dress code is about being presentable. I don't know where there is an echo. Sorry about that. Okay. So dress code is basically about being formal. For gentlemen, we say in highly formal events, please be in your suit, your shirt and your tie. Depending on the occasion, definitely. Occasion can also mean the weather. So if you're in Turkana, of course, you're not going to kill yourself with a suit and a tie. What I encourage gentlemen, make sure that your suit sits well. The darker the suit, the better. We call those protocol colors. The blacks, the navy blues, the grays, the browns. Please leave the purple suit to street pastors and comedians. Even if you had a beautiful pink jacket that you used for your friend's wedding, keep it for the weekend. Be very careful when you're wearing your shirt because there are shirts that don't go with they're like checked shirts. The big checked shirts don't go well with ties. You know, sometimes you look at men and you look at how people have dressed, you really wonder, did they have a mirror? You know, so it is important to probably pay attention to that. How do you button your jacket quickly? I'm just highlighting probably things that might not have been sounded in the notes. Edwin is saying, rest in peace to my purple suit. Edwin, you can I love that. You can wear it during the weekend or to a friend's wedding. Yeah, how do you button your jacket? When you have a 3-buttoned jacket, the acronym is MAN, to use MAN, M-A-N, going downwards. So the first letter M stands for you may button, you may not. Sorry, the middle button is A. That means you always button. The last button is N, you never button. What does that mean? If you have a 2-buttoned jacket, which are the most common these days, you start in the middle because you don't have the, what is it called? The top button. So with a 2-buttoned jacket, you always button the top and you never button the bottom. When you're seated, of course, you can unbutton so that you don't strain the buttons. In terms of socks, happy socks. If they make you happy, it is okay. Who doesn't want to see happy employees? But please don't go to official functions wearing happy socks. Your formal sock should be the color of your trouser or darker, gentlemen. White socks, no go zone unless you're going for sports. Don't wear socks that have cartoons or their ankle length. Look professional. Make a statement as a gentleman. What else do I want to say? For the gentleman, your belt should be the color of your shoe. You know, in fact, 3 things. The belt, the wallet, and the shoe should be the same color. If you're doing brown, do brown. If you're doing black, do black. If you must keep a beard, please let it be well trimmed or well shaved. Never smell of sweat, or you lift your arms and we are seeing yellow marks. Make sure that you have a good deodorant, gentlemen, or better still, a little secret. The only hair that you must use, that you must have, is what is on your head, not anywhere else. Another good accessory, gentlemen, a watch. A watch makes a statement for a gentleman. We talked about the color of the belt, but let it also be the correct size, you know, or the trousers to also be, in fact, use it as an accessory. How many times have you gone to the airport, you see gentlemen, they are told, remove your belt. Then you go, you don't know whether to pull your jacket or to do what? To cling to your belt. Remember, gentlemen, that belt is an accessory. Your trousers should fit you first and foremost before you accessorize. It is not a rope, you know, for tying your trousers. Make a statement by wearing a quality watch. Men have thrown away their watches because now they can tell time on their mobile phone. Remember, your watch is still an accessory. Go fish it out, even if it is not working, just wear it. It's a very good accessory. Somebody had asked about the ladies. Here you are. Ladies, what are you wearing? Is it a skirt suit, skirt suit or dress suit or trouser suit? The first question we are asking, is it a good fit, ladies? What is a good fit in terms of length? As we talk about dress code, ladies, dress according to your age, your body size and structure, and the occasion. So correct fitting means official is knee length or slightly above the knee. Knee length or below the knee or slightly above the knee. So correct fitting means, ladies, your clothes are not too tight. What is too tight? Honestly, if anybody can see your panty line, ladies, that is too tight. You can't believe it. One time I said this in a class and a lady said, "Madam, that's why these days we don't wear." I said, "Hey." Interesting. Correct fitting means you don't show the cleavage. Ladies, it means the dignity of any woman to expose their breasts in public. By the time you're attending the senior management course, you're a senior public officer. Please dress decently. For Muslims, your hijab, your buibui, I guess basically is playing around with the colors. Ladies, remember the kitenge you can actually wear to the office depending on how you stitch it. Let me say something about colors for the women. Ladies can play around with bright colors, unlike the gentlemen. Of course, protocol colors, the darker the color, the better, but women can show up in a pink suit, a red suit, a yellow suit, but don't do more than 3 colors at any given time, ladies, from your shoes to your clothes to your handbag, no more than 3 colors. Even if you come from Machakos, on a light note, of course, yeah, 3 colors. For jewelry, we talk about the rule of 5. The rule of 5 means if you have 1 pair of earrings, you count 1 and 2, you have a ring, that is 3, you have a watch, that is 4, you have a chain, anything else you have is excess. The rule of 5 faith does not mean you decide no other jewelry but 5 rings on one hand, or you decide 4 earrings on one ear and 1 up here. You know, there must be a difference between a professional woman and a slay queen. Sometimes I know you have seen ladies wear a lot of jewelry, then they have very long nails, yeah, very long like this. How many colors? Like 6 different colors. And then they have long false eyelashes. So they're looking at clients like this. You know, it doesn't give you a professional look. For your handbag, ladies, professional women should carry small to medium-sized handbags. I know we are now pulling suitcases in offices in the name of handbags. I don't know what we are carrying in those suitcases. For your hair, it should be clean and neatly shaped. Let me summarize by saying your hair should never scream for help. Sometimes you walk into an office and a lady's hair is literally screaming, "Umenionea salon wapi?" You know? Yeah. We've talked about nail polish. We've talked about makeup. Formal shoes for women are closed or closed with open toes. Raise the heel a little. The ladies will tell you the higher the heel, the more the elegant the walk. But wear a heel that you can comfortably walk in. And now that I was told to say something about interviewing skills, and I will do that. I was in a panel in an interview, and a lady came in a very high shoe. She looked very smart, by the way, and she was very comfortable in that heel. But I guess the shoe looked new, and she must have done a bit of walking. So when she arrived, of course, with the skirted tables these days, she must have removed her shoes to relax. And then, of course, you get nervous in the course of the interview, kicking your legs left and right. Finally, the chair says, "Madam, thank you so much for coming to interview with us. You can now leave." You know, she couldn't get her shoes. She had to crawl under the table. Now, suppose you get stuck there. When you're going for an interview, please wear a shoe or something, a cloth that you have worn before. I'll finish dining etiquette, then I say something quick about interviewing skills. Why do we talk about dining etiquette? Because at this level, you're either guests or your hosts. Being with dignitaries in a formal lunch and a formal dinner, never embarrass yourself because of food, never embarrass your organization because of food. So if dinner is served at 6, punctuality. Please don't show up the Kenyan style. We talk about order easy to eat food. If you go to China, they give you chopsticks, but the rest of the continent, we call it continental style, and it's about fork and knife. So what can you comfortably eat with a fork and a knife? Even if you come from Western and Ingoho is your thing, and chicken wing is your favorite. If you can't do a chicken wing with a fork and a knife, why don't you on this day just with a drumstick? Because you can easily cut. Suppose now that kawing unajaribu kukata, unakata kanaruka tu kanaingia kwa sahani ya mgeni. What will you say? Will you say, excuse me, sir, can I have my chicken wing back? Do you ask for it? Do you let them have it? Worse still if it falls on their white shirt. It can be very embarrassing. Buffets can be quite lengthy. We've seen embarrassing moments. Please can know what is on offer. Sometimes you're at the third serving point, your plate is already full, and then you can see your favorite food ahead. You don't know how to behave. Please serve an item at a time. Never find yourself at the table with your salad. You bring the soup, you bring the main dish, you bring the dessert. Hatutaki kuamuka. This is not an opportunity to mobilize resources. Please serve an item at a time. Sometimes we have seen people get the table, there's a napkin at the table, and not at the table, when you're going in, they give you a napkin to clean your hands. What do people start doing here? They just knew how I was sweating. You start wiping. Sometimes people even blow their noses into them. That napkin is for cleaning your hands. It shouldn't go elsewhere. Maybe furthest is your mouth. If they don't give you a hot towel, they're likely to give you a finger bowl. A little bowl that is at the table that has lemon water, called finger bowl, so that you clean the tip of your fingers. Please don't go dishing immersing your whole hands, and then you're splashing water on the linen and everything. Don't also mistake it for the first course. There's a true joke, actually. It's not a true joke, but a true story of 2 newly elected members of parliament who traveled abroad. Can you imagine in their first dinner that is what they were given? One of the gentlemen actually thought it was part of the meal, and he grabbed it. His friend quickly saw and said, oh my goodness. So he told the host, excuse me, please, in our country, we always pray before the meal. Allow me to pray. But I'm going to pray in our language, but when I finish, I will say amen. So he began to pray. Ndugu yangu tafadhali, haya maji mbele yako ni ya kunawa, usije ukayanywa. And then he said, amen. Didn't he save his friend from embarrassment? Yeah. So I want to finish by looking at the setting. When you get to the table, I wish we could see it physically, but when you get to the table, normally you have the forks on your left and the knives on your right-hand side, and then you have the side plate on the left, and your water, your glasses are on your right-hand side. Remember, on a round table, you will always have both side plates very close to you. If you ever use the side plate on the right-hand side, or you drink the water on the left-hand side, wewe umeingia kwa shamba la wenyewe. Solid to the left, this refers to the side plate because it carries your bread and butter, your liquids to the right. Now, there are only 2 spoons at the table. You will always find a soup spoon and a dessert spoon. So if we find you eating rice with your spoon, you're basically using the wrong item, fork and knife. Never pile food on the plate. You have ugali, chapati, both white and brown. Then you have rice and pilau, matoke and mokimo. Then you have fish, chicken, goat ribs, and jahi. What else do people call corruption sincerely? Remember, in dining, you can always go for a second helping. So I think I don't want to spend too much time. Very, very Remember, when you pick your teeth at the table, it is because of convenience. Otherwise, this should be done in the washroom. Cover your mouth, remove whatever it is, break your toothpick and leave it on the side. Please never take it for a walk. Then you get to class, you have your toothpick, then you can't see a dustbin. So what is the easiest? You hook it on your earlobe. You even forgot that you had a toothpick. Please don't do that. Finally, on dining etiquette, please remember that cocktails are networking events. If you ever attend a cocktail, ask yourself, what is my priority? Why am I here? How do I want to represent my organization? Your drink should never be the focus. Sip your drink, don't drink. Bitings, we call them bitings. We don't go to cocktails to eat, we go to bite. So if you're in a cocktail and your eyes are already turning red, please go home because you're basically at the wrong place. So allow me to quickly say something about did Helen ask me about interviewing skills? And I will not go through the presentation, but I'll basically talk about the different types of interviews that we have. Then I make a comment, and then we can close there. So when it comes to interviews, please remember you are either on the panel or you're an interviewee. Whichever way, make everybody comfortable. If you're on the panel, make everybody comfortable. If you're the interviewee, allow yourself to be made comfortable so that you can do well in the interview. So there are different types of interview. There's a phone interview that is basically used for screening. Then there's the one-on-one at the panel level where, there's the one-on-one where probably you're meeting the potential employer. Then there's the panel or group, which is most common in public service, where you're interviewed by a panel. We have a type of an interview that is not very common, but is really gaining traction, which is the meal interview. One time a gentleman called his friends and said, "Man, I think I got the job." After going through a series of 3 interviews, he was invited for lunch. He said, "Hey, I think I got the job." Little did he know that it was still part of the interview, because we have things that behavioral attitude that we pick on the table. I'll mention just 3. Picture somebody who sits and then they quickly want to add salt even before they taste. You're likely to pass the interview. Why? You look like somebody who makes hasty decisions. Who has told you the food does not have enough salt? The other one, you tell somebody, kindly pass the salt. The person who is passing the salt suddenly remembered, oh, ngoja kidogo, I also wanted to use it. It means you're not considerate. Let the salt go, then you can ask for it. Then there's also the one for, instead of asking the next person to pass the salt, you pass your hand across their food to reach the salt yourself. It means you are not a good team player. Why aren't you making use of the person next to you so that you do what? They make the task simpler. So you can easily fail an interview. So maybe just to mention that during the interview, what 3 things do interviewers look for? Confidence, credibility, and competence. Make sure that you maximize on that. And to mention probably about 3 types of interview questions, we have what we call standard or traditional questions. Then we have behavioral questions or behavioral-based questions. And then we have personal questions. You're likely to have all these types of questions. The standard questions or the traditional questions are questions like, tell me about yourself. Please master the narrative about yourself and let it flow in a logical order. Start from the current to the last, so that you don't spend a lot of time talking about your primary school when you ought to be talking about your current competencies that basically fit the current job. Your greatest strength, how did you choose? How did you know about us? What did you like most about your last job? What did you like least about your last job? Don't use this opportunity to badmouth your employer, because what are you telling the current employer, the potential employer? You will do the same when you leave. Behavior-based questions, they focus on your actions, behaviors in a previous setting. Behavior provides behavior, So describe a time you had to make a difficult decision, for example. Let me summarize the behavioral questions by saying, use what we call the acronym STAR. STAR, where the S means situation, the T stands for task, the A, the action you took, and the R, the results you got. I'll give an example. Maybe you're organizing a conference, and then the tents are not delivered because you have never paid the supplier. So the situation is the conference, and the task is you're organizing and you don't have tents because the supplier says you have never paid. So what action do you take? Two things. You can either negotiate, plead with this supplier because this conference must go on. The other alternative, if you're loaded enough, you can go to your pocket, sort out the conference, and then you can ask for a refund. Of course, the result would be a successful. Yeah, so you look for a situation like that and describe so that people can see your past behavior. The last one I talked about was which one did I talk about? I think I've talked about the three. There was behavior, there was personal, and then which one did I miss out? Behavioral, technical. Technical will basically be about the job, isn't it? Job specific. So those you have to really demonstrate your competencies. So I think that's all I want to say about generally about interviewing skills. Let me see if there's anything else I had wanted to say, and then I can allow you to make a comment or two, then we can close there. Yes, I think that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, so let me allow you to probably ask a question or make a comment, even as I run through the chat to see what else you said. So anybody with a question or a comment? My colleague Helen said, you come into a training environment with your glasses half full. Dennis, you want to say something?
Yes, thank you for the well elaborate you have given us. I think now going forward, some of us may change some of the eating etiquette we have been having. But now one fails to wonder, like if you go to China, the eating with those sticks, that's their tradition, that's their culture.
Yes.
When do we stop now? Where did we now stop our culture, like eating with hand, to adapt the English culture?
Yes.
As long as you are eating with manners.
Yes.
I don't know.
A very good question. A very good question. And I hope we are not asking. Yes, yes.
Okay, I wanted to ask one of the dining etiquettes, and mainly.
This is who? Who is on the floor?
And mainly, this is Diba. Diba. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's dining etiquette, Mm-hmm. And mainly how you put or handle the cutleries, the spoons, the forks.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you didn't explain that when you are trying to do the dining etiquettes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let me start with whose question was the first one? Eating with your fingers.
On the same note,
yes.
Madam. Huh?
Yes.
On the same note, in the same line of eating etiquette.
Yes.
There is a very strong connection between the feel of food, natural feel of food, and the appetite. Yeah. Now, when I'm forced to use the cutleries or any other eating object,
yeah,
I'll be interfering with the natural process of appetite, and eating. What happens in that case?
Okay. Sawa. So let me start with eating your fingers. I will combine that with the appetite one. Then I will come to how you handle the utensils. Now, please remember, even when we talked about dress etiquette, we talked about occasions. Dining etiquette also has to do with the occasion. And remember, what we are describing now is what we call formal dining etiquette. Whoever asked, was it Diba? No. The first one who asked about eating with your fingers. By the way, did you know ugali is sweetest with your fingers, sincerely speaking? Yeah? And especially if you're eating the traditional ugali. Chicken ingoho is best sweetest with your fingers. But we are talking about the occasion. If I asked you right now to all go to what is the nearest swimming pool, wherever you are, and we are going to swim, none of you will come in a suit and a tie. You will be wearing what? A swimming costume, and you will be properly dressed. Somebody said here they have bought happy socks for attending the physical exam. If you're going to attend the physical exam, you will be in your socks. But if you went swimming, you will not be in your socks. What am I trying to say? Different occasions ask for different behaviors. Now, China, of course, chopstick is their culture. Our traditional culture is about eating with our fingers, but we are talking about a formal lunch where we have a situation where cutlery has been provided. It's called the continental style. Now, imagine you're in a presidential function and there's a dome that has been pitched. They have given you a hot towel as you go in. They will never give you a hot towel as you go out. I hope you have always noted. So there you were, you had eaten with your fingers, your fish, your chicken, and your fingers are all messy. So when you leave, how do you behave? There's no tap, there's no running water. And then you meet a client from the World Bank who gives you a business card. You don't even know how to hold that card. Or you don't even know how to get into your wallet to pick a card to exchange. So we are basically saying we are navigating situations that require that we behave in a formal environment. Otherwise, at home, please eat with your fingers. But in a formal environment, please just learn to use your cutlery. And for the last question on the appetite, do you know that environment alone sets the appetite for that particular occasion? So please don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass your boss by eating with your fingers when you're supposed to be using your cutlery. And then how do you handle the utensils? The index fingers basically do the support. So you hold your knife like that, support with your index finger, hold the fork like that. If you need to turn the fork slightly, you can turn, because things like rice, probably they're best held with the other side of the fork. For the Muslims, I know you don't eat with your right hand, with your left hand. So the fork that is on your left side is likely to be changed, and then you use your right hand side, depending on what your cultural practices are. Yeah, so I'm afraid we don't have much time. I don't know whether there's a quick one, because I know that my other colleagues are still waiting. I will still stay online, and I will respond if there are any questions on the chat. And like my colleague said, we have provided our addresses and telephones, and you can always feel free to contact us anytime. So any quick question or comment before I hand over to... Yes, hello, this is who?
This is Christine.
Yes, Christine.
Lynette. I was just asking on a quicker note, you mentioned during interview time that when you ask personal questions, you probably start from where you are, your current station and your current JD. Am I right?
That is about yourself. Yes, yes.
Yes, because some other presenters will teach that you start from your lowest to the highest.
No. You don't start with the lowest. Okay, sorry, let me not say no, because there could be many schools of thought. But my thinking, or the best practice is, they never give you a lot of time, right?
You're right.
So suppose they cut you short and you have not even reached where you are. Because I am thinking, Christine, your current position is what has sharpened you to be able to qualify to be shortlisted, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you will be losing an opportunity to bring out your best. Okay. Remember when you started, you had not even grown, you had not had a lot of professional experience. So you will basically be talking about sharing your dessert and leaving out the main meal.
Yeah.
So best practice would be start with the most current and then work backwards.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So allow me to stop there. I will still be online and probably respond on the chat so that I allow my colleague to come on board. Madam Wanjangi, I think should be the next. Over to you. Thank you. Is Madam Wanjangi in? Madam Owino, are you still there?
Yes, Madam Lynette. I guess you are our last presenter in case Madam Wanjangi is not in.
Okay, back to you then.
Just wrap
now,
up and
now
close
that
the
you're here,
session.
Madam Owino, Allow me to say something about negotiation skills. I didn't want you to have your camera off. I need to see the reaction on your face. So I had two colleagues, I had two friends on Saturday talk about dowry negotiation. So the groom and the mother had negotiated with the mother-in-law and they had agreed on 1 million. Then neighbors came and told them, this family where your daughter is going, they swim in money. Yani wanaoga na pesa. Hiyo 1 million ni kidogo sana. So they told them to escalate and they were asking for 48 cows and the value of one cow is 250,000. And so the total was coming to 12 million. Mama, you from 1 million to 12 million. So the day comes and they go. And just like any other home, they had cooked a lot of food, prepared everything, and then the negotiations started. Do you know it was so bad? You called it what? You called it a walk away. It was so bad. And then in our African culture, when you don't strike a deal, you don't even eat the food. So they actually stormed and they left. So can you imagine? I don't know what your comment would be, but now they did not negotiate. The other team left. So I don't know who ate the food. So when you talked about walk away, that came to mind. Thank you. You can make a comment about it as you conclude. Back to you. Asante sana.
Thank you. That's Madam Lynette. That's an interesting one. That's why it's very important to do what is called background check and also do a lot of intelligence before you go for any negotiations so that you know the way the other team behaves, the other team where we are going for negotiations, so that you know how they behave. Culture is very, very important where negotiation is concerned. So yes, do a lot of, can I say, intelligence gathering. Even when you are doing your professional negotiation, you really need to get a lot of intelligence about the other side, because even you, they're doing intelligence about you. So that is important, Madam Lynette. The cultural aspect is can help us so that we avoid certain situations like that. And I believe food can never lack eaters. So maybe the neighbors would have eaten the food. Thank you so much. Ladies. We've taken so much of your time, but we believe at least we've added some value to your senior management course. We take this opportunity, my colleagues, Helen, Lynette, and myself, to wish you a wonderful week ahead and in the other sessions. Tumeshukuru sana, and you may leave at your own pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one issue before you leave. I don't know if the organizers are here. We are having challenges with sharing of the presentations. I don't know if they can assist us on that. We've been asking for the previous recordings and we are not getting them in the WhatsApp. We had been promised that they will be sent to our WhatsApp groups, but that's not being done. At least I know for Group A, we are not receiving.
Okay. So what I will do, because yes, we are the organizers. I'm also the head of training and business development. What we are going to do is to try and ensure that if you don't get them on your WhatsApp, then you'll get them on your walls. That is the wall of the class. Each and every class will find it on their wall. So I believe our IT team are here. If they're not here, I'm going to take the responsibility of asking them to ensure that the presentations are on the wall. I believe you're talking about the webinar presentations because the notes are already there and you're able to access, unless you're having challenges accessing the notes on the wall. Is that the case?
No, I'm talking about the webinar recordings like this one.
Correct. The
yes,
webinar
we've been
recordings?
asking for the Yes, we've been asking for the previous ones. I can also see my colleagues on the chat, they're asking for this one. So
Yes.
I thought it's better we raise it now because it might be the same. We asked for them on the WhatsApp walls for
Yes.
for our groups, and we are not getting them.
Okay, I'll try and coordinate that, please. Is that okay,
Thank you so
Honorable
much.
Sylvia?
Yes, thank you so much for your assistance.
Okay, fine. All right. Thank you. Kwaherini sana.
Madam, I have a concern before you close.
Yes.
Concerning the notes on the platform,
Yes.
on the LMS about
Yes.
the research design.
Yes.
When you look at the research design, I think there are some pages that are missing because it
Yes.
starts with, when you look at classification of designs, it starts at number 4.
Okay.
So I was just wondering where could be number 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Thank you, Barasa, for that question. I've taken notes. We'll go into the system and try and respond to resolve the matter. So I've taken note of it, please. Thank you. Any other before I close? Any other concern? All right, then we take our leave. Asanteni sana.
Karibu, kwaheri.
Hello. Is that Trilango?
Hello. Hello. Hello.